Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. Each episode gives us a chance to talk about a different Andrew McMahon song, and this week's no exception. We're continuing our celebration of Everything in Transit being certified gold last month with another song off of this near-perfect album. This time around, I have an Andrew fan named Bella who helped pick the song. So I'm excited to get to know her a bit and discuss this song with her. Welcome to the show, Bella.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Bella, of course. I am 18. I started listening to music a lot when I was about 10, and I became an Andrew McMahon fan when I was 12, and I have
Oh,
been a diehard since. He's been my favorite musician since then, a constant in my life.
I'm doing my math here. So it had been 6 years ago that you discovered Andrew became
Yes.
a fan. Okay, so 2015. Trying to think of where he was, and so that would have been like a year after the self-titled Wilderness album, right?
Yes,
Okay,
it was a year after that, and I remember High Dive was being played a lot at my local alternative rock stations, and
right on.
I was hearing that a lot, which is funny that that wasn't even how I discovered him, but I was hearing that a lot after I discovered his music, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's Andrew.
So what was it that you first heard that pulled you in as a fan then? Was it a song or was it a full album?
I believe I found I Woke Up in a Car first.
Oh, wow, way back, huh?
I was at that time I was really into like that pop punk genre, and one of my favorite bands was The Academy Is, and I
Yeah.
was looking at their similar artists online, and I saw Something Corporate and Jack's Mannequin under the similar artist to The Academy Is, and I was intrigued,
Hmm.
and I think I listened to I woke up in a car, and then I listened to the mixtape. So, and then I found out that it was the same person, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm interested in this." And it was just instantaneous love.
That's really cool that you went all the way back to the Something Corporate days and then, pulled in a little bit of Jack's Mannequin and at the present time you were hearing a song that was, at least mildly popular on the radio
Yes.
from his newest project. That's really cool, kind of connecting the dots all together like that.
Yeah, I was grabbing his music from everywhere and listening to all of his different bands and projects all at once.
I've had a few guests now that started becoming a fan in the last 6, 8 years, like you, and you have the opportunity, a different opportunity than I had with his music. I had the opportunity to listen as it came out, but like you had the opportunity to go back. You discover this artist
Yeah.
you like, and you're like, oh, there's this whole back catalog that I get to go back to now and enjoy. So
Oh yeah.
what's that journey been like going through that? Have you found like a sweet spot in the catalog that you really kind of stick with, or are you just like,
I think I definitely do universally like it all.
mm-hmm,
I love almost everything he has released, which is pretty rare for me to
yeah,
do. At first, I stuck a lot with something corporate, I think,
mm-hmm,
because that was really in the realm of what I was looking for.
yeah,
But I think that, once I learned his story and everything, well, Everything in Transit quickly became like my favorite album of all time. Like pretty much the moment I heard it, like once Into the Airwaves finished, I was like, okay, yeah, this is my favorite album. It was pretty quick.
I've been curious because his style has changed quite a bit. I would say, I mean,
Yeah.
it's changed a little bit, right? It's between Everything in Transit even and now, and it made me wonder: do people that you're friends with are they into like Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness on a regular basis, or is it just like only the ones that you introduce to him?
Definitely only the ones that I introduce.
Okay.
I don't think they would like recognize his music. Really, the only time I was like talking with somebody, I was at the salon once, and the girl doing my hair, I don't even know how we started talking about music, but I said
Mm-hmm.
something about Jack's Mannequin, and keep in mind this was like a 30-something-year-old woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "Oh my God, yeah, I used to love Jack's Mannequin." And I was like 13 at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, and I do too, but nobody else my age does."
I gotta say, I appreciate those recommendations on Spotify. I think they're really accurate.
Yeah, they are.
I'll put on my Andrew McMahon playlist or an Andrew McMahon album, and then it'll go to like some other stuff that maybe I haven't even heard before.
Yeah.
Even if I don't remember the name of the group or the song itself, sometimes I'll click, the heart to say I like it, so that'll keep coming up.
Right.
I like everything they play. They do a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, and there's so many different artists too. I mean, judging on which project of Andrew's you start listening to. I mean, if you listen to something corporate, you're going to get a lot of that early 2000s pop punk, emo.
Hmm.
Jack's Mannequin, you're kind of going to get the same thing, but it's kind of more indie,
Yeah.
kind of more out there. And then if you listen to his current stuff, you're going to get like the current alternative rock. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. Whichever one of his projects you listen to, you're going to get a whole different cornucopia of other artists to check out.
I've almost always listened to this song we're discussing today as just a part of the Everything in Transit album. It's not usually a song I seek out separately from the album or play out of order, but, and don't get me wrong, I do love it. I love this song, but I don't have any older memories associated with this one from like the time it came out.
Right.
But I do consider it an essential part of the Everything in Transit album. I mean, if it weren't there, it would definitely be missing. But it's been more recently that I've gained more of an appreciation for this song. So I'll touch on what gave me a new perspective to La 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 and what gave me that new appreciation for it. So
All right.
the band is Jack's Mannequin. It is track 5 on Everything in Transit, which was released on August 23rd, 2005. And I learned from my previous guest in the last episode I did that the West Coast Winter version of this song, which we'll talk about later, was included on the vinyl bonus edition in 2010, along with the a cappella version of Holiday from Real, which is the song we talked about. So there's an alternate version of each of these two songs that I'm talking about right in a row here.
Ooh, yeah, that's cool.
And I also learned recently, and I didn't know that La 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 was released as a single in November 2006, which was a whole year after the album came out.
I don't know if I knew that actually. That's interesting.
The way I understand it, though, it was more of a promotional single, so I don't know if they actually, I don't know if it ever had its own like single disc,
Yeah,
but I think it was more of a promo, whatever that
right.
meant for the purpose of the shows. Jack's Mannequin were going on tour with Panic at the Disco at the time,
Right.
which probably would have been their first album if I remember correctly from Panic at the Disco, and that's what they used to kind of promote the tour. They released La La La. It's like they probably needed a new single. It's like, okay, Dark Blue came out over the summer, now we need a new one for the
Right,
fall.
yeah.
So that's the way I understand it anyway. I've always understood this song or accepted this song as part of the 3 songs in the middle of Everything in Transit. It's just kind of the way my brain works, though. So it's like you got the first 4 songs, really get you into the album, and then you got this middle set of 3 songs, and that would be the first, Dark Blue and Miss Delaney to follow, and then you got the last 4 songs. I don't know why my brain tries to compartmentalize albums that way when I listen to them straight through a lot, but that's kind of the way I think about this is like, okay, this is like the middle of the album, which it definitely is. It's exactly the middle of the album.
I think it goes well with like, I mean, you're kind of thinking of it as the story that it is. Like that album does kind of tell a story and, it's got its beginning, its middle, and its end.
Mm-hmm.
Even an epilogue if you would count Into the Airwaves, which does give off like epilogue energy for like if it was a book. So, yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I've kind of always looked at it in a similar way. I mean, that album kind of feels a little bit like a journey, like just like reading a book to me personally.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, that's a pretty cool way to think about it. And maybe that's why my brain does go there. It's because I do pay a lot of attention to lyrics, to music in general. And Andrew is the prime example of that because he writes such great lyrics. And so
Right.
everything that I hear throughout Everything in Transit is a story.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's the middle of the story. It does make sense, I guess. Yeah, I just never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So was La 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 a standout track for you? Like when you first heard Everything in Transit?
I kind of do this thing when I get into an album where I kind of go through a phase with each track where I just like, oh yeah, this is my favorite. I love it. And that's something that I've always done and I do to this day because I'm always listening to music. At that time, at first, I remember my first favorite song was like Kill the Messenger. And I was like, this is my absolute favorite song. And then something happened and I was just suddenly like, okay, no, it's La La La, and it's been my favorite since. I don't know what happened. No hate to Kill the Messenger. That's a great song.
Fantastic song.
I don't know. I was just listening to La 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 one day, and it just like really just like hit me. I don't know what hit me exactly, but it hit me right, and I was like, yeah, this is this is my song.
It's very difficult for me to pick a favorite on this album, and I think a lot of fans would say the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I bounce around specifically to say, okay, this is my favorite right now, but it's definitely like, okay, these four are my favorites right now. It's more like that.
Yeah, that's how I think about it.
Someone recently asked Andrew in his Everything in Transit Q&A in the past month what his favorite memory of making the Everything in Transit album was. And his answer at first was, well, there was a lot of good memories, so it's hard to pick just one. But the one he chose to talk about was when he brought a group of his friends into the studio late at night to sing the backup vocals and do the hand claps for the chorus to this song that we're talking about. He considers 4th Street Studios to be like a second home, and so he just thought it was really cool to bring a bunch of friends in, gather in a room, in a studio, around a microphone, and just have a blast with it. And I can imagine that being a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
The way he referred to it in that Q&A was he said it was a magical moment.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I feel like that song kind of encapsulates some magical energy to it, personally.
It really does. And it's honestly taken me years to realize that. I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah.
So he actually listed all his friends that sang on it and clapped on it in the liner notes. And I'm not going to list all their names, but Bobby Raw and Jay McMillan are listed as some of the hand clappers and singer and backup singers.
Right.
As well as someone named Abby the intern in the liner notes. So I wonder if it was just like, oh, you're working at the studio late at night. Come on in and have fun with us.
What an experience. She should feel so lucky.
Wonder where Abby the intern is now. If it were me, it would be like one of my most memorable moments of my career, but that's just me.
Abby, if you're out there, you need to reach out to the podcast.
I would love to talk to her about that experience.
Yeah.
How unique. Andrew apparently reworked the track listing for this whole album several times throughout the process. And one time, an A&R rep from Maverick stopped by, and Maverick was the record label that Jack's Mannequin had just signed with. The A&R rep said, yeah, everything sounds great, but could you come up with just one more song? Like, I feel like it's missing something.
Right, yeah.
One of the couple of songs that he went back and kind of worked on was La La La, and so I just want to say thank you out to that A&R rep, wherever you are, for being so conscientious about, this needs one more. I just feel like it needs the middle. And it was La La La. Well, one of the songs was La La La.
Yes, I believe another one was it Into the Airwaves?
The epilogue, as you called it earlier.
Yeah, I've mentioned that song a lot already. I really love that song.
Sounds like it. It's a great one. So besides the group vocals on this song has Andrew on piano, harmonica, and vocals, Bobby Raw on guitar, Jim Wirt on the bass, Jim Wirt being the producer of the album, Jay McMillan on the drums, and Patrick Warren on melodica, accordion, and moog. Do you know what a moog is?
Yes.
So a moog is used in, I wouldn't say a whole lot of music that I love, but there's some of the music that I really love. It is kind of noted for having a moog in it, like The Rentals is one band, and then the Cars from the 70s and 80s.
Those were one of the bands that I grew up on. They're actually my favorite band of all time, the Cars are. I grew up on them. My dad played a lot of music that I ended up loving into my teen years, like the Cars and Alice in Chains. I don't know, I guess it kind of did influence me into liking what I like and discovering Andrew and clicking so instantly with his music. He's kind of got a little bit of a new wave inspiration to him.
Yeah, especially I would say this album and probably the self-titled Wilderness album as well. I would say like early 80s new wave.
Yeah.
Well, according to Setlist FM, this song's been played live 503 times in concert. He tends to close out a lot of shows with this song, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
So out of 503 times that he supposedly played it in concert, I wish I knew how many nights that he closed the show out of that 503, because it's probably been quite a bit.
Yeah, it's got that very triumphant ending sound to it, so it makes a lot of sense.
Kind of an epic closer. There's also been plenty of times that La 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 has been played as part of the entire Everything in Transit set for the anniversary shows.
Right.
I did go back and count those. So between the 10-year anniversary shows, which I was at one of them, and then the 15-year anniversary shows last year, which I saw on a live stream, I didn't go to it. He's played that full album at least 20 times that I was able to count on set list. It may be more somewhere in there, but it was definitely played fifth on those nights, but a closer a lot of other nights, probably hundreds of times. It's been a closer, I would guess. Did you catch any of the Instagram live streams that Andrew did last year?
I honestly did not. Somehow I missed it.
They're on YouTube if you want to check any of them out. It's basically just him on a piano talking in between each song. That's besides the music itself, which definitely was the best part. It felt really intimate
Yeah.
being there with him as a fan. It was just really comforting during the pandemic to see that. And
Yeah.
I honestly think if you went back and watched some of that, I think you'd still feel that connection. Like
Right.
you don't get that intimacy from an artist very often. You can see him in concert, you can meet him, shake their hand after the show sometimes, and when it was just him on screen and then just kind of talking, it just felt really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, the reason I bring up those Instagram live streams though is because he did a lot of them. But there was one time, it must have been like a private event or a Zoom or something I wasn't part of or didn't know about. But it was May 20th last year, and he actually played the song as well as another favorite of mine, As You Sleep, which I talked about in a recent episode. So I'm really disappointed now that I missed that one. And I kind of went
Oh,
back. I've gone through YouTube, and I'm like, I've asked in the Facebook fan group, and I'm like, does anybody have recordings of this, anything there? And someone said no because it was a Zoom. So it was just like,
oh,
yeah,
that
there's
sucks.
no evidence of it out there, but except on Setlist FM, somebody did put the set list down there. That's the only reason I know that.
Uh,
A little disappointing, but I've gotten to see a lot of Andrew both on live streams and in concert. Bella, have you ever seen Andrew in concert?
yes, and I did meet him, which
Cool.
was awesome. Yeah, for my 14th birthday, my parents bought me tickets to see him, and that was him coming here where I live was pretty special because I'm kind of in the South, and he doesn't ever tour here.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, about a year prior to that, if you remember, he did that tour with Weezer and Panic at the Disco, I think.
Yeah, I got to see that tour.
Yeah, so online it said that one of my state was one of the only ones that he wasn't coming to. He wasn't going
Oh,
to be a supporting act. And when I found that out, I was just like, because even though I was a big fan of Panic at the Disco and Weezer and stuff, I was like, Andrew was the deal breaker, and like it was
yeah.
also like that happened in like early 2016, so like somewhat recently after I became a fan. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, that's why I want to go to see Andrew, and then
Yeah.
that didn't happen. So I was really excited about a year later when he was touring for the Zombies on Broadway, that he came to my state, and I grabbed tickets as fast as I could, grabbed meet and greets as fast as he announced them, and I got to see the sound check, which was awesome.
I've never been to one of those. So what's that like?
I just couldn't believe that he was real, I guess. I was kind of struggling with that because I was like, oh my gosh, just because when you see somebody through your computer screen so much and you listen to
Mm-hmm.
their music, I mean, it's just weird when you finally get to
It
see
is.
them.
It's surreal.
Yeah, it was super surreal. And I remember he came down during the sound check and he took pictures with everybody, like while he was singing. And I was kind of embarrassed because I couldn't get my phone to take the picture because I was like shaking and stuff because I was just, my gosh, it was like, oh my God, this is a dream.
Yeah.
But he was really patient about it. And he stayed so I could take my picture with him. And then I got to meet him after that. The meet and greet was before the concert.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I didn't say as much as I wanted to because, again, I was just completely starstruck. But he was really nice, and, I got a signed poster, got a picture with him, and the only thing that I could
Mm-hmm.
really say was I just told him that I was really proud of him.
Oh, I'm sure he appreciated that.
Yeah, that was really all I could even muster. I said a few other things, don't remember what I said though, and then hugged him and just like, oh my God, it was the best day of my life. Just that concert, the whole experience, and just like he was the only musician that like I really, really ever wanted to actually meet because listen to so much music that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if I met this guy from this band, it would be cool. But with him, it was like I really actually want to like meet him and talk with him. And I hope that in the future I get another chance to meet him and actually have a bit more of a discussion and conversation with him, because when you're 14 and starstruck, that like you're the first and only person that you've really ever like kind of looked up to is just like in front of you. I mean, it's just like it's crazy.
Yeah.
The concert itself was really good, and he played La La La, which was great. He rode an inflatable duck into the crowd, which is
Hmm.
awesome. I also want to say that during that concert, I met a fellow Andrew McMahon fan. She was like in her 30s, I think, late 20s, but she really helped me during that concert because I'm pretty short and she was short too, and she was giving me tips on what to do when you're a short
Hmm.
girl at a concert. We had a really good conversation. I don't remember her name, unfortunately, but if she's out there, if you're hearing this, I want to say thank you because I will never forget you for that. Andrew McMahon fans, they're just so nice.
They are. That's what I found too. Was that your first concert then?
No, the only other concert I had been to before was a Fall Out Boy concert a few years prior. So that was the second concert I had ever been to.
I'm curious though. Did he close the show with La 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 that night, or do you remember?
I don't remember honestly. I think
That's okay.
maybe he did.
He closed both nights when I saw him in Pontiac and back in June in Pontiac, Michigan. When I saw him, what I really liked about when they played La 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 is he brought a bunch of friends on stage. I'll call them. You know, it
Right.
was like the opening act, Zach Clark, and the guys that play with him, and just some of the other people that kind of came with them on the tour. And even the second night, he brought out a woman who was pregnant, and I think I heard afterward that she was expecting the next month or so. She was their former merch person,
Oh,
and she was up there playing as well. She played the harmonica for him on the second night, which
that's
was
awesome.
that experience actually 3 months ago changed my perspective on La La La. I realized what a powerful song it was, how it's so communal. And maybe it was just kind of, during this pandemic, it's been difficult. We haven't been able to be around people. It's hard to go to concerts. This was a pod show, so we weren't around anybody else. And so it was just like it made us feel connected. That song made us feel connected. And so I think I'll forever tie this song now that came out 16 years ago to an experience I had this year in
Yeah,
2021, which is pretty cool.
that's how like timeless and cool his music is. I mean, it really has not aged. Like I feel like I listen to everything in transit and I feel like it easily could have come out like last year or within the last year.
I agree. I think it was maybe even ahead of its time because not a lot, but there's some music that kind of sounds like that nowadays.
There is. And it's weird because you don't see a lot of people saying, like, citing him as an influence, but yet it does kind of feel like he, like, paved the way a little bit.
I am surprised that more people aren't saying that he's an influence. So maybe that'll remain to be heard, and that's coming soon. I don't know. You'd think so because that was a lot of the artists. Of course, they're in their early 20s that are coming out now. That are pop artists or pop rock artists. 10 years ago, they grew up on the pop punk stuff, that sort of scene that came
Yeah.
out of Warped Tour and all that. So it makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, it's surprising they're not mentioning Jack's Mannequin specifically, actually, as an influence.
Yeah.
Let's look at some songwriting notes here. So it's pretty clear that this is a relationship song.
Yeah.
The beginning of the song sounds like he's maybe giving up on the relationship based on the lyrics, at least writing songs about it.
Right.
And it makes me wonder at like what point he was at with Kelly, his girlfriend or maybe ex-girlfriend at the time, when he wrote this one.
It seems very hazy. It's very strange because it's such a triumphant and happy sounding song and then the
Mhm.
lyrics are just like and even when you look at the lyrics, I feel like it's not entirely clear what is being said at times. I mean, for example, we met for a movie, every scene was a sign, we made out through their meeting, and it's just like I don't know exactly if he's saying this relationship is doomed to fail, it's been doomed from the start, or if he's saying we can salvage this relationship and
Yeah.
it's all going to be okay when I come back. Like I still don't know exactly for sure. And I think that's one of the things I love about it, just the ambiguity, because it's like, I don't think even he knows maybe exactly.
Ambiguity, that's a good word for this because there's that we're in a relationship, we're not in a relationship, I'm coming back, but I've got friends to support me when I'm down,
Yeah.
when I need them. So, and I know that's the primary message of this song. So that's the takeaway I think for most people that I've got friends who helped me pull through the hard times basically, and it was a hard time for him because he was broken up with Kelly, who would later become his wife. And it's possible some of these lyrics in the verses aren't about Kelly, but most likely they are.
Right.
So it's like I think he's talking about the relationship, but then going to but I've got friends, so it's
Right.
going to be okay, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of? Mentioned this instrument earlier. Have you ever heard of a melodica before?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't know what that was until today.
Oh.
I decided to look it up, and I think I knew in the past. Maybe there's a point in my life where I knew what that was because it's such a funny looking instrument.
Yeah.
I've seen it before. I wouldn't have been able to name it.
Right. Yeah.
But Patrick Warren plays the melodica, the accordion, and the moog that I mentioned earlier, and I've always thought the intro to this song was a harmonica. Is it a harmonica or a melodica? Because I listened to some YouTube videos of people playing the melodica, and I'm like, that sounds a whole lot like the beginning of La La La. But I know in concert he plays the harmonica for that part.
Yeah. I don't know.
My ear's not good enough. Like, I don't have that musical ear. I can't pick out instruments.
Yeah, I don't either.
All I can do is speculate. But
Yeah.
I know for a fact that he does a harmonica solo in the middle of the song. And it's in the liner notes that he plays a harmonica. But it made me wonder where that melodica comes in and if that intro is melodica and harmonica or one or the other. And it sounds like as the chorus leads out on each time, you hear that what I think is melodica as well.
Right.
But I didn't know the sound until I listened to, and I'll post this in the show notes, I listened to a guy play Yesterday by the Beatles completely on melodica, and I was like, oh, I know that sound. That
Yeah.
sounds like La La La.
Everything in Trance is definitely one of those types of albums where I would love to have been a fly on the wall in the
Mm-hmm.
studio while he was recording it just to see everything. And I know there are some clips, like I think in the documentary, the Dear Jack documentary, there were some clips of
Mm-hmm.
him in the studio. But I would have loved to just witness the entire thing, like the entire recording of that album, and just see how he strung everything, pieced everything together. Because
Yeah.
it's still to this day kind of mind-boggling to me, like that he went from North with something corporate to
Yeah.
everything in transit. Like,
Totally agree.
tell me that does not feel like an entirely different person.
Completely. North is definitely a rock album, and
Yeah.
Everything in Transit is a rock album, more of a pop rock album, but it's like they put in all these different elements. It's like, well, Something Corporate was a 5-piece band, very traditional, I would say, in the instruments that they played.
Uh-huh.
And it's like Everything in Transit. He was like, let's just try this. That's what
Yeah.
it feels like. I've never heard him say that, but it seems that's what, throwing in these different types of instruments. So it's really fascinating to me, and I agree. I wish I could have seen that with my own eyes, been a part of that.
That's why we're jealous of that one girl. I already forgot her name that she
Abby
sang.
the
Abby.
intern.
Abby the intern, yeah.
I love how this song also sounds like everybody's having a good time. It's
Yeah.
like you can tell Andrew's having a good time while singing it, even in the verses when the lyrics are heavy. But it's like when they get to that gang vocals, I'll call them, toward the end, when they're all singing together. It's like it sounds like a party. It sounds like
Yeah.
a bunch of friends having a good time together, and that's what it was. Through the Q&A that I heard, it's like, wow, that's exactly what that sounds like. It's just a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it such a perfect concert closer. And in hindsight, although I love the track order on the album, makes me wonder how fitting that would have been for the end of the album too. I mean, Into the Airwaves is the perfect ender for that, but
Yeah.
it just makes me wonder, like, because like I said, he made several decisions throughout. He said he even annoyed his whoever it was at the record company. He had to keep calling and being like, hey, I'm rearranging the tracks again.
Yeah.
So I wonder if at any point that was considered as the closer, but I don't know if we'll ever know that.
I would be curious to ask him about that because
Hmm.
it definitely, I could see that happening. Well, actually, I can't really wrap my head around that track list being too different.
Right. It's hard to imagine. I find it hard to listen to him out of order, personally.
I do too. I used to just listen, sometimes I still do just listen to all of his stuff like on shuffle. Like if I'm just
Hmm.
having like an Andrew McMahon type of day, I'm just like, I just turn it all on and shuffle. But
Hmm.
most of the time when I listen to that album, I want to listen to it one piece, one go, from the beginning to the end. No skip, no shuffle. Yeah, it's an entire experience. I've always thought that about that album.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. So how many other songs that you know have a piano solo, then a harmonica solo, and then a guitar solo?
None.
I can't think of one. I can't think of another
Yeah.
song ever.
I can't even say that I've really heard many songs that sound like La 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 like ever. And I'm a very, like, I'm always listening to music. I
Hmm.
listen to like 400 albums a year. I write them all down and I listen to a lot of music. And I don't think I've ever really encountered a song and I've heard it and been like, that kind of sounds like La La La. Like, it's just so special and just so, like, I don't know, it's just so different in such a good way. I wrote this down in my notes to mention. To me, it's always kind of sounded like a marching band or something like that.
I could see that. Yeah, just it's so big. The sound is so big.
Yeah,
It feels like something larger than five people in a room.
it just has like this marching band like energy to it. I used to listen to it all the time, and that's like the first image I would see in my head when the chorus would hit, just like a marching band for whatever
Hmm.
reason. And there's not many songs out there like that that aren't like made for like stadium rock, you know, and that song is not. Imagine Dragons Stadium Rock or
Right, not
something.
typical stadium rock, but it has that sound that's larger than life, let's say.
Yeah.
I heard you say you listen to 400 albums a year and you write them down. Now, does that mean you listen to 400 new albums every year and you
Yes.
keep track of them?
Yes, I do.
Tell me more about that because that's
Oh.
I want to know about that.
Well, I think getting into Andrew's music made me realize just like the full potential of music that I could get and like how much I could love it, I guess.
Hmm.
And a couple of years after that, I just got so into music. I got really into like new wave, like the Cars and Duran Duran and Blondie and stuff. And then through that, I got into just all these other genres, and I just started doing this thing where I was like, I'm going to listen to 365 albums a year, but I ended up bypassing that. And the only reason I don't listen to like more is because I don't want to like oversaturate myself or like, and I also am like, I'm so picky about my music. Like, I have to
Hmm.
listen to it in like noise canceling headphones and like all this specific
It
stuff.
sounds different.
Yeah, so
It's a different experience when you have the headphones on. Yeah.
that's been my routine for about like 3 years now. I've been listening to, at first it was 365 albums a year, but I kept
Hmm.
cracking that and going past 400. And this year I'm at like 290, almost 300.
That sounds like a challenge I want to take on. I could probably think of how many albums I listened to in the last 2 years because I've made it a habit during 2020 and then in 2021 I've done the same thing. Everything that I listen to but I'm talking about things that are new that have just come out. I always
Right.
save them to the same playlist, and it's named after the year. So I have a
Right.
2020 and a 2021, and they're very long. Like I have no idea how
Yeah.
many songs are on them. Hundreds, a thousand. I'd have no idea.
Yeah.
Doubt it would be 400 albums though.
Yeah, well, I'm a teenager. I've got a little bit more free time than a lot of people. And especially when the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, yeah, what else am I gonna do?
Hmm.
Yeah, last year it definitely skyrocketed, and this year too, because, partly in quarantine and stuff. It's weird when I think about how, like, removed my taste. It's not removed. I still listen to a lot of, like, the pop punk emo that I used to, because it's
That
what
you
got me
started
into
with.
music. I'm always moving in my musical journey, so, like, right now I'm just listening to a lot of, like, 90s, like, music, like PJ Harvey and those like noise rock, like post hardcore bands of the 90s, like
Hmm.
Brainiac and Unwound.
Are there any lyrics to La 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 that jump out to you that are especially important to you?
The whole song, I think mainly, I always loved that space and astronomy is a reoccurrent theme in his
Hmm.
music. And the spaceman that can't get high, I love that. And yeah, I've always loved I've always loved space since I was a little kid. So once I got into his music and saw how many times he references I love it.
I like that line too, and it's funny to go back to all of his songs that mention the sky or stars or space or astronaut. It's kind of funny to me, but I like it too. During the Everything in Transit era, he had an online journal that was like on the Jack's Mannequin website, and he'd update
Oh,
it
yeah.
like every couple weeks or once a month or whatever. And one thing I read on there, he's like, since I'm mildly obsessed with space, and I'm thinking, you think? Like,
Just a tad.
I do like that about his songwriting, that there's like a common theme throughout,
Yeah.
that doesn't always make its way into the song, of course, but like through several songs. It's like neat. Okay, so that's Andrew, whether it's something corporate or Jack's Mannequin or here in the present with the Wilderness, like that's still Andrew. So
Yeah, I think every album has at least one song that's got like astronomy type of lyrics.
I do like all the lyrics in this song, and I'd venture to say, I'm not sure because I haven't gone through the lyrics to every song and everything in transit recently, to, read them all recently.
Right.
But I think La 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 might have the most clever lyrics
Yeah.
in the verses. I love he's done writing her book, he's done drawing her pictures, he's done writing her songs, but then I don't know if he exactly gives examples why, but he's like, I like this, you'll give up your job at the bank, proving money's not fun when you're gone. So this is the first verse. It's not very long, but I'm ready to move on. And it's just like this flow. I love that flow.
Yes.
And each verse has a little bit something like that it's like the lyrics are playful and clever. It flows so well too.
Yeah.
In and out of each other and in and out of the chorus. It's how he does that, I don't know, but it's a gift.
It's very clever and it paints such a vivid mental image, even when he's not necessarily describing something. I mean, I think we all get like a very specific image when he says like into the airwaves, he says like the gold-soaked afternoon, the people running by and fishbowl life. But, in this song, he's not really describing much images in detail like that. But yeah, I still get such a vivid, clear mental image in my mind. And I do with every song on this album. There's something that I picture in my head.
I'll go back to what you said earlier because I really liked it. It's like reading a book and being able to envision the characters. That's how I feel about these verses. It's like I can see that.
Yeah.
What he's describing. I can kind of see them all hanging out. I can see he and Kelly struggling. I can see he and Kelly enjoying the relationship. And what do you make of that? The last line, I'm coming back to my girl, I think it's by July.
Yeah.
So were they planning on getting back together? I mean, I don't know. We're just speculating here, I know. But it just, to me, that feels like, okay, we're broken up, but we'll get back together. I never really thought of it that way until recently, but that's what it feels like. I know most people don't break up with the intent to get back together, but it's almost like maybe they planned for a break.
I think that he had to take a break for like maybe mental health and stuff, and he just kind of made a deadline maybe in his head that like, okay, I'm gonna be better by July. I'm gonna be in a better headspace. I'm gonna be ready, able to manage a relationship. He and Kelly were struggling a bit during the writing of this album. I remember hearing that in the Dear Jack documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really makes sense, especially with, how they're married and still together to this day. I mean, just needed a break and just needed to get his head clear. And
in fact, the third verse, which I consider the most emo verse of the whole song, he says, "Guess what? I'm done writing you songs. I'm far too unstable to settle. I doubt that the doctors are wrong, so I'll wait by a palm tree." That kind of points to, hey, my doctor's saying I can't do this right now. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
In a previous time, when I thought everything in transit was written, either during cancer or after,
Right.
I would have thought that was, okay,
Yeah.
he's talking about the doctor, which is always the coincidence here when he talks about she thinks I'm much too thin. She asked me if I'm sick and Holiday from Real. And then the reference to a doctor here, you'd think so, but of course, we know that wasn't the case. He wrote this whole album and recorded it before he was diagnosed.
Yeah.
But that points to what you were just saying. He wasn't ready. He knew that, hey, even my doctor's saying I can't do this right now, but I will be able to eventually. I doubt that they're wrong, so I'll just wait.
I've always found it kind of unsettling, all the lyrics about doctors and stuff, and then you find out that this album was entirely written before everything. And even going back onto like North and songs like 21 and Invincible, it kind of hits you in the gut a little bit and you're like, oh God, like, oh man, that hurts.
So I mentioned the palm tree line. I don't know if any fan can help but sing that line when he sings that, whether it be listening at home or in the car or at the concert. Like when he sings that and he kind of sings it, and then it goes back into the final chorus. I've got friends who will help me pull through. That's like, I remember seeing that part in concert and just like the whole crowd, everybody on stage, his band, Zach Clark's band, everybody else who was up there with them, everybody's singing it, yelling it. Like, it was such an exciting moment. And like I said, I'll never forget that. But that's how I feel pretty much every time I hear this song now, which I love. I love having that connection now to the song that maybe I was missing before.
I've probably heard this song like hundreds of times, and it still carries the exact same type of spark for me that
Hmm.
it did the first time I heard it, which is really special.
Do you have a favorite part of the song?
Yeah, I don't know if I can pick. I love everything. Like when you asked that, immediately I thought my mind went the introduction, and then it went the bridge, and then it went the third verse, and like all at once, and I was like, that's not one, that's
Everything.
that's yeah, that's not one part, that's the whole song.
There's a lot to love about this song, but I would say my favorite is the solos, because that's where it
Yeah.
starts to get really exciting and energetic. When they go to after that, I think it's the second chorus. Right after that, I'll wait by a palm tree. So I'll say the whole outro, which is pretty much the last minute and a half of the song. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
I found a quote from his journal that I mentioned earlier on the Everything in Transit webpage that's still, it's not maintained, but it's still sitting out there. He mentioned video footage for La La La, and he didn't say a music video. And I don't know of a music video for La La La. It implied to me there was maybe supposed to be a music video for it. So on November
Oh.
19th, 2006, right around the time they would have released this as a promotional single for the tour, he wrote, and I quote, "The video submissions for La 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 are looking awesome. Casper has been playing them for me, and I'm so psyched to see how much work has been put into these." Well, end quote. So if anyone out there knows of a La 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 music video or footage that was meant for a La 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 music video, I'd be really curious to see it, but I'm betting that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I would be too. I Part of me is curious, another part is like I don't really want the mental imagery that I have when I listen to the song now to be like tarnished.
You're right. It's probably better left wherever it is, on the shelf, if you will. So,
Yeah.
have you checked out any of the alternate versions of the song? I mentioned the West Coast Winter version earlier.
Yes, I do. I do love that song, that version of that song. I've had that in my playlist like for a long time, and I love that version. I love how it's interesting that like he kind of churned out La 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 kind of last minute after everything in Transit was done because the West Coast Winter version kind of sounds like he just came out of something corporate, like his voice for some
Yes,
reason.
I agree.
It's very like this could almost be a North B side or like a rare like a bonus track. Like if it was a little bit different, it could almost be on there. So it's just that's it's weird to me that it was a last minute song because it sounds so much like he just came out of something corporate.
Yeah, and it could have been that he kind of had it lying on the back burner for something corporate, because I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of songs he did and that he
Yeah.
did have lying around, and he was like, yeah, something corporate, and I'll record that one day, because it wasn't his intention to break up something corporate when he released
Right.
Everything in Transit. So he maybe had it lying around for something corporate, and he was like, oh, one more song? Okay, well, let me try this one.
Yeah.
It may have worked like that. I don't know. And I'm pretty sure, based on all I've researched, there's not much out there on this, but I'm almost positive that the West Coast Winter version was recorded before the actual version. So
Right.
you'd call that a demo, I guess.
Yeah.
Them just kind of messing around or whatnot. But I do know that the drummer, so Brian Ireland from Something Corporate, played
Right.
drums on the West Coast Winter version. So that right there tells me, maybe they were just
Yeah.
messing around in a studio, a couple of the guys from Something Corporate, and they were just like, because Bobby Raw was probably involved, I'd have to
Yeah.
guess. And there's 3 out of the 5 guys from Something Corporate lineup at the time, so very possible. There's a version on YouTube I'm going to link as well. I'll link that West Coast Winter version, and I'll link the quote acoustic version on YouTube. And I say quote because there's an electric guitar throughout at different points, but it's weird. So I played them. I played one on YouTube and one on Spotify at the same time, and there's very little difference. They're almost exactly the same, but they're not exactly the same. So they recorded it
Oh.
at least twice like that. And some of the lyrics are different, like words here and there. and then he
Right.
sings slightly differently at times. So it was kind of fascinating to me to listen to them on top of each other, and it sounded like two Andrews in the same room singing, which was the coolest thing about it. But
That would be awesome. Yeah.
yeah, so it sounded like two singers. It really did. But so I recommend it if you want to give yourself an experiment.
Yeah.
Pull up
I'll
YouTube,
definitely
pull up
do that.
Spotify, and try to time it up. I think I waited to like the beginning of the second line or something to time it up. It really wasn't as much work as it sounds like. It was really just kind of like hitting play and
Yeah.
like, oh, he just said that here, he just said that here, hit play. It was kind of cool. I liked listening to it that way. I don't know if I'll ever do that again, but it was just like
Yeah, that's
a
cool.
neat little experiment for today. That West Coast Winter version was on Punk the Clock Volume 3. It was a comp that
Yeah.
came out way back when. And like I said, it was included on the Everything in Transit vinyl reissue in 2010. Oh, and I wanted to mention that West Coast Winter was a lyric from The Lights and Buzz. And I don't know, so it makes me wonder,
Right.
did they name it that after Lights and Buzz came out? You know, was it a year later that they named the quote West Coast Winter version that? I don't know, but it seems like it was a borrowed lyric from a different Jack's Mannequin song. There's also a couple of live versions out there that you can get on Spotify and YouTube. There's live from Delray Beach, which is the final track on the Glass Passenger Deluxe, and then there's the live at the El Rey Theater, so not to be confused with, and that's off of the live album. You can get that one on CD. You can find it on YouTube. You can actually watch the
Right.
video, and there's a DVD as well out there. I actually just recently got that one for Christmas. That was one thing I asked for Christmas this past year because I never had it in my
Oh,
collection.
yeah, I need that. I have Live at the Ventura Theater from something corporate on DVD, and I believe I do have the Dear Jack documentary around here somewhere, but
Hmm.
I don't have the Live at the El Rey. I need that.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's all the Jack's Mannequin stuff versus the something corporate one. So it's
Yeah.
just as good though. I'd highly recommend it. So those two versions, the live at Delray Beach and then live at the El Rey Theater, to me those two versions are interchangeable, but they both have that energy I was talking about when you see La 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 live in concert. So it's you could listen to either one on Spotify and get a very similar experience, but I'd
Yeah.
recommend them both just as much. So, random question for you, because you seem to know a lot of music. Have you ever heard of the band The Cab?
I definitely used to listen to them quite a bit when I was into that type of scene. I remember they had a song with Patrick Stump of Fall Out Boy and
Hmm.
Brendan Urie was in it as well. So that was kind of like that was an epic song.
They were in that whole scene, that Warp Tour, post Warp Tour scene.
I believe the Cab were signed to Fueled by Ramen, I believe.
I'd believe that.
What I recall is that all those Fueled by Ramen bands back in the day, they were pretty much like constantly like glued to each other's hips. I think because Pete Wentz had his record label or something like that, and the Fueled by Ramen bands of like the 2000s, like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, The Academy Is, Cobra Starship, Gym Class Heroes, they were all just kind of constantly around each other, and I think the Cab was one of those. Yeah.
Okay. So they have a song called La La on their second album, Symphony Soldier, came out in 2011. And I'd recommend both their albums. Their first album is, I don't, well, it's the first album's Whisper War, but the second one I
Right.
like even better called Symphony Soldier. And the song La La, the reason I'm bringing them up is because they definitely say La 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 in the chorus. And
Oh.
it has nothing to do with the lyrics to the La 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 that we're talking about today. The lyrics go something like, and I'm just going from memory here, I la 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 love you because you know I la 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 lie or something like that. So it's definitely used in a different context where he's actually
Yeah.
using the word lie in it. But two bands that kind of came out of that emo pop punk scene of that decade, and they ended up having a song with similar lyrics in it later on. So
Yeah, I would like to think that they were inspired by Jack's Mannequin. I would like to think that.
I would like to think so too. I don't know if one had anything to do with the other, but maybe. The Cab to me was one of the those bands that I really liked them. I still do really like that music, but they were the first band that I remember. Them and Cobra Starship. They were the first couple bands I remember that started fusing a lot of pop, dance, mix type of stuff into pop punk.
I'll have to listen to their albums then, because I don't think that I ever actually listened to a full one, just select songs from Whisper War. I remember I liked, of course, that song One of Those Nights, and then I think
Mm-hmm.
I loved Bounce as well.
Whisper War was pretty good. I thought the Symphony Soldier was even better. That's the one I still go back to.
I'll definitely write that down on my never-ending list of albums to listen to.
Yeah, add that to the 400. Hopefully you can get to it by the end of 2021. So if not, put it on the 2022 list.
Music like that, it'll never get old to me. I mean, it just makes me feel like so comforted and nostalgic even if I've never
Mm-hmm.
heard it before.
I mentioned earlier that I've always grouped this song, La La La, with Dark Blue and Miss Delaney as kind of that middle section of Everything in Transit.
Right.
Now that I've done an episode on all three of these songs, I feel a little bit more comfortable admitting this. So these three songs on Everything in Transit, bear with me, these three songs are my least favorite songs on Everything in Transit.
Oh,
That sounds like sacrilege, right?
you wound me.
How could you say that about these songs? La La La, Dark Blue, and Miss Delaney. They're awesome songs. I love them all. I find it hard to pick favorites, like I mentioned earlier on this album, but for whatever reason, I find it easier to pick out those three right in the middle and say those are that's my least favorite section of the album.
Right.
I know that's an unpopular opinion, probably in the fan base. They're great, but not as great as the others, in my opinion.
You know what? Yeah, I can't get too mad at that. I understand. Dark Blue is definitely for some reason I've kind of I don't listen to it as much on its own. Like if it comes on shuffle, I usually skip it. Maybe because I've heard it so many times.
Yeah, probably.
But I've also kind of always felt that way about Bruised, which I know might be shocking to a lot of
Hmm.
people. They might be like, "Really? That song?" But
I think I went through a period of time where I felt that way about Bruised, and I've come back around to it.
yeah, I think I will. I don't know why, but that one just don't get me wrong, every song on that album I absolutely love, but Bruised I just kind of meh on.
Miss Delaney and La La La, I like more now than I did a year ago. That's for sure.
Ah,
I'd say Dark Blue stayed the same. And I like it. I like them all. But
yeah,
I like them, but I still don't think they touch the other songs on the album.
that's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
I do love Miss Delaney though.
Yeah.
That is a very good song.
Where does La 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 rank for you in the overall catalog, though? If I'm looking at all of Andrew's stuff, and you have a playlist of all of Andrew's stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where does that fit? Like not an actual number, of course. So we're not going to do that, but like whereabouts does it fit for you?
Honestly, it's gonna have to be at the top. I mean, it's
Hmm.
what I associate him with the most when I hear when someone says Andrew McMahon, I hear that and I hear I woke up in a car
Hmm.
and I hear Cecilia and the Satellite. Yeah, Lulla Lies just it's right up there with those songs that make him well known and well deserved songs to be well known.
Yeah.
So it's right at the top.
Well, it's songs like La 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 that finally pushed Everything in Transit to certified gold status. So
As it deserves.
yeah, very very well deserved.
Yes.
It was kind of neat to talk about two Everything in Transit songs in a row, which I've never done this before on the podcast. I've never done two episodes in a row off of the same album, songs off the same album.
Ah,
But I thought it was an appropriate time because both you and my last guest, when we were going back and forth, both of you were thinking about these particular songs, and I'm like, well, that's kind of good timing, actually. I kind of like this. So,
that does make sense. Yeah.
well, do you have any other final thoughts about La 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 or about Everything in Transit in general before we part ways for the night?
All I have to say is it's still one of my favorite albums of all time. Lulla Lies, probably. I mean, it's hard for me to pick an overall favorite song, but it's definitely the first that comes to mind if somebody
Hmm.
were to ask me straight up on the spot.
Yeah.
It encapsulates so much feeling so easily. There's so much power in it, and I think you feel like you're living in it when you listen to it. You feel like you are actually inside that song and it's all around you, and I think that's an amazing thing for music to do.
That's a cool way you just put it. You feel like you're inside the song.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, Bella. This was a lot of fun. Just chatting about Andrew McMahon in general. I love getting to dive deep into a song that you're so passionate about. It's super exciting to me to hear that from somebody. So, and thank you guys all for listening. Anybody who's listening out there, if you like what you hear, feel free to rate the show on Apple Podcasts. And if you write a review, make sure you screenshot it and send it to me at somethinginthe@gmail.com. and I'll enter you into the contest to win a podcast t-shirt. Also, if you can, leave a comment on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Something in the Wilderness. If you want to share your thoughts with me on a particular song on the show, shoot me a DM on social media or email me and we'll set something up. This has been part 2 of a 2-part celebration of Everything in Transit. Again, congrats to Andrew and Jim Wirt and everybody who was involved with that album. It's such a masterpiece, as we've been saying here. Cheers to a well-deserved recognition. And again, Bella, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
And where can we find you online, Bella?
Find me on Twitter with the handle Knock That Door.
And thank you guys all out there who continue to listen, and I truly hope that you have friends to help you pull through.